The sky was bright and clear when the massive shadow fell across the city. People looked up, shielding their eyes, and gasped. A ship unlike anything anyone had ever seen hovered above them. Its body was smooth and silver, glowing faintly in the sunlight, and its edges shimmered as if made of liquid metal. The air seemed to hum with power. No one moved at first, frozen by awe and fear. News helicopters circled it, and the city streets filled with people staring, their phones raised to record history. From the ship came a strange sound, a deep, vibrating hum that seemed to resonate inside every chest. Then the massive doors of the craft slowly opened. Light poured out like a wave, and from it emerged creatures that looked both strange and beautiful. Their bodies were tall and thin, covered in metallic armor that reflected the sun. Their eyes glowed softly, blue and green, scanning everything around them. Every movement was smooth, precise, as if they were gliding rather than walking. People whispered to each other, some crying, some laughing, some frozen in awe. In the middle of the crowd, a teenage girl stood with her backpack slung over one shoulder. She had short hair that curled around her face and sharp, curious eyes. She was small compared to the humans around her, but she was steady and calm. While others panicked or screamed, she tilted her head, studying the aliens with interest. She didn't feel fear like the rest. Instead, a spark of excitement ran through her. This was the moment she had dreamed about all her life, meeting beings from beyond Earth. The aliens stopped in the center of a wide plaza. One of them, taller than the rest, stepped forward and raised a hand. A soft, melodic voice spoke, though the words were strange and foreign. Even without understanding the language, the girl sensed a command, a greeting, a proud announcement. The alien spoke of knowledge, of history, and of a treasure from their civilization. The crowd murmured in confusion and excitement, waiting for what was about to come. Then the alien lifted a hand and a platform rose from the ship. On it rested an object unlike any human invention. It was large and intricate, shining with smooth lines and patterns that seemed impossible. The crowd gasped. The alien spoke again, explaining that this was a relic from 1,000,000 years ago. It had survived wars, planets, and the test of time. It was a symbol of their greatest achievements, a creation that no one else in the galaxy could replicate. People looked at each other with wide eyes, some trembling, some whispering in disbelief. The girl stepped closer, her curiosity growing. She knelt slightly, examining the relic from the edge of the crowd. To the others, it looked like a magnificent, complicated machine with gears and panels that seemed almost magical. But to her, something clicked in her mind. The shape, the structure, the tiny details, she had seen them before. Not in a museum, not in a history book, but in a project she had built in high school for her science fair. A tiny smile crept across her face, barely noticeable but full of amusement. The aliens continued their display, moving their hands over the relic. Holographic lights emerged from it, patterns forming in the air like glowing rivers. Symbols appeared, spinning and changing, showing the history of its creation, its journey across space, and its power. The crowd watched in awe, imagining the countless years this relic had survived, imagining the civilizations that had revered it. The girl's smile widened. She had seen all these patterns before, had thought about them, built them, and laughed at how similar the alien version was to her own creation years ago. She straightened, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Around her, humans whispered and gasped, pointing and taking pictures. No one could believe that such an ancient object could exist so perfectly intact. She walked a little closer, ignoring the cautious murmurs of adults nearby. Her mind raced with ideas, imagining how she could explain to these beings what she knew, how quickly humans could learn, how a mind that thought differently could see solutions the aliens might never consider. The aliens noticed her. The taller one tilted its head, scanning her carefully. The crowd sensed the attention and backed away, giving her space. She felt a thrill, not of fear but of challenge. Here were beings who had lived 1,000,000 years, who had survived eons, who considered themselves superior in knowledge. And here she was, a human girl, tiny but clever, standing in front of them, ready to see what would happen next. The wind blew gently, rustling papers and banners left on the plaza. The sun reflected off the alien ship and the relic, making them glow like silver fire. The girl's eyes gleamed with amusement and confidence. She knew something the aliens didn't yet understand, something that would soon change how they looked at humans forever. She took a deep breath, ready to speak, ready to show them that intelligence and creativity did not always come from age or history. Sometimes, it came from a human mind thinking in a way no one else could. And with that thought, the girl prepared to laugh. The alien stood still on the platform, its glowing eyes fixed on the crowd. Its long, metallic fingers hovered above the relic, and lights from the object shimmered across its smooth surface. The crowd watched, holding their breath. The alien began to move its hands in careful patterns, and suddenly the relic came alive. Holographic shapes spun in the air above it, forming intricate designs that twisted and glowed. Symbols floated and rearranged themselves, and streams of light pulsed like a heartbeat. People gasped, pointing at the shapes, whispering to each other in awe. "It's alive," some murmured. "It's a work of genius." The girl stepped closer to the platform. She crouched slightly to get a better look at the details, her mind racing. The relic seemed complicated, but she noticed something familiar. The panels, the small gears, the way the holograms connected. They reminded her of her own science project from a few years ago. Her high school invention had been simple, crude, but it worked on the same principle. She bit her lip to keep from smiling too soon. Surely there was some mistake. How could this magnificent, million-year-old alien artifact look so similar to something she had built as a teenager? The aliens continued to explain its history. Through gestures and glowing symbols, they told the crowd that this relic had survived wars, natural disasters, and even the destruction of its home planet. It was meant to store knowledge, to be passed down through time, and to demonstrate the intelligence of their civilization. The crowd was amazed. They could hardly imagine a civilization that had lasted millions of years, or an object that could survive that long. People whispered to each other, taking videos and photos. News reporters shouted into microphones, trying to capture every detail. The girl, however, was focused. She traced the edges of the holograms in her mind, connecting the shapes and lines to the work she had done back in school. The patterns, the logic, even the mistakes, they matched. She remembered the nights she had spent in her bedroom, testing circuits and adjusting code, imagining how to make a device that could project information in 3 dimensions. She had laughed at herself when it worked the first time, proud but thinking it was only a small achievement. And now here it was in alien hands, polished and worshipped as a treasure. A few humans near her noticed her intense gaze. One whispered, "Do you understand it?" She shrugged slightly, keeping her expression neutral. "I think I've seen this before," she said softly. It was true in her own way. The relic wasn't entirely alien. It was familiar, as if the principles behind it were something a clever mind could rediscover, even across species. She felt a strange mix of amusement and pride. If they could appreciate it so much, maybe they would also understand her version, even if it was smaller, simpler, and human. The alien on the platform raised its hands again. The holograms shifted and formed new patterns, flowing faster now, showing the object in motion. Lights pulsed along its edges, revealing hidden compartments, mechanisms, and energy conduits. The crowd leaned forward, gasping at each new detail. Children clutched their parents' hands, some pointing excitedly. Scientists in the crowd whispered technical terms they recognized but couldn't fully comprehend. Everyone was impressed, everyone, except the girl. She was smiling now, a small, secretive smile because she knew something the aliens didn't. She stepped a little closer to the relic, tilting her head. Her mind raced with comparisons. The aliens had refined it, polished it, and amplified its functions, but the core idea, the logic of the holographic projection, the sequence of the light circuits, was exactly like her high school invention. She could almost see the code and circuits behind it. If they had brought her device here, she could improve it in a few days. Maybe even make it better than this million-year-old relic. The alien noticed her movement and paused. Its glowing eyes scanned her carefully. There was something different about her, something in the way she observed and understood. The other humans didn't have that clarity. They were in awe, yes, but they didn't analyze. They didn't see patterns. They didn't think of ways to improve. But this girl, tiny, human, and unassuming, was thinking, connecting, comparing. The alien tilted its head slightly, intrigued, as if sensing that her mind was unusual. The girl straightened and took a small step forward, ignoring the gasps of those around her. Her heart beat faster, but not with fear. She was excited. Here she was, a human, standing before beings who had survived millions of years, who had created objects of unimaginable power, and she understood the principles behind it. She could see the flaws they didn't notice, the simple adjustments that could make it more efficient. She thought about how humans could innovate faster than any long-lived species, not because they were stronger or older, but because they were clever, adaptable, and willing to challenge old ideas. The wind blew through the plaza, rustling papers and banners, and the sunlight caught the relic's glowing edges, making it sparkle. The girl smiled wider now. She could hardly wait to show them that humans were more than just observers in the universe. She could laugh at their pride, not with disrespect, but with the confidence that humans could achieve great things in their own way, often faster than any species that relied on age and tradition. Her eyes met the alien's glowing gaze, steady and fearless. She took a deep breath and prepared herself. Soon, the aliens would learn a lesson they had not expected, a lesson about human ingenuity, creativity, and the surprising power of a human mind. And she was ready to give it to them. The alien's eyes glowed brighter as the relic hummed and shifted. The crowd stared in amazement, unable to look away. Holographic lights spiraled from the object, forming patterns that seemed to tell stories older than the Earth itself. Children clutched their parents' hands, while scientists whispered excitedly about the complexity of the device. The alien raised its long metallic arms, controlling the glowing shapes with precise movements. Every gesture made the patterns shift, split and reassemble. It was a display of intelligence, skill and age, something no human had ever created. The teenage girl in the crowd, however, was not impressed in the usual way. She stepped closer to the platform, tilting her head as she studied the relic. To everyone else it was awe-inspiring. To her it was strangely familiar. She could see the lines, the tiny mechanisms, the way the holographic energy flowed through the circuits. Her lips curled into a quiet, knowing smile. She had built something very much like this in high school. A simpler version, yes, but built on the same ideas and principles. As the alien continued its demonstration, the girl felt a rush of amusement. The alien's voice, a soft, melodic tone, echoed across the plaza. Even though she couldn't understand the language, she could sense the pride behind it. This creature had spent 1,000,000 years perfecting the relic, yet here she was, a human girl, recognizing its design instantly. She could see the flaws the alien didn't notice, the little adjustments that would make it more efficient. She bit her lip to hold back a laugh, knowing that what she was about to do would surprise everyone, especially the aliens. With a calm step forward, she reached the edge of the platform. The crowd moved aside instinctively, sensing something unusual. The alien noticed her and paused, its glowing eyes fixed on her. There was a moment of silence, as if the entire plaza held its breath. Then the girl straightened, her eyes twinkling, and spoke in a clear, confident voice, "I made that in high school." The words rippled through the crowd. Gasps echoed as humans and aliens alike stared at her. The aliens froze, their glowing eyes widening. This tiny, unassuming human had just dismissed their 1,000,000-year-old relic as something a teenager could create. Murmurs swept across the plaza. "Did she just say?" one scientist whispered. "She built that?" a child asked, eyes wide. The alien's proud stance wavered as they processed what she had said. The girl's smile grew. She stepped closer to the relic, pointing out the patterns. "See this part?" she asked, tracing a line in the air. "And here?" She moved her fingers over the holographic display, explaining in simple words how the circuits worked, how energy flowed, and how a few small changes could make it better. The alien tried to follow her, but its mind, vast and ancient, had never considered such a perspective. The girl was not only understanding the relic, she was improving it in her mind instantly. Humans in the crowd began to whisper excitedly. Some shook their heads, laughing nervously. "A kid, a human kid," they murmured. Others looked skeptical, thinking she must be joking. But the confidence in her voice and the clarity in her eyes left no room for doubt. She understood what the aliens had spent 1,000,000 years perfecting. She saw the flaws they could not. The aliens stepped back slightly, uncertainty rippling through their ranks. The taller alien raised its hand, trying to assert control, but the girl ignored it. She wasn't afraid. She had never been. She had spent years learning, building, thinking differently than anyone around her. And now she realized humans had a kind of creativity that even 1,000,000-year-old species could not fully predict. The girl laughed softly, a warm, confident sound that cut through the tense atmosphere. It was not mocking. It was the laughter of someone who understood the truth and was amazed by it. The aliens tilted their heads, trying to understand, but they could not. No words existed in their language to describe a mind that could think so quickly, connect ideas so differently, and yet see the same patterns they had spent ages perfecting. She held out her hands, fingers hovering over the holograms. "You've done well," she said, speaking slowly so the aliens could see her confidence, "but it's not perfect. Humans like me can make it faster, smarter, simpler. We don't need 1,000,000 years to improve things. We just think differently." The alien's glowing eyes flickered. Its pride was shaken, but not broken. It studied her, realizing that this small human had shown a kind of brilliance that it had never expected. The crowd remained silent, waiting, watching. Some humans began to cheer quietly, understanding the moment. Others simply stared, amazed that a human teen could stand toe-to-toe with a creature that had survived eons. The girl stepped back, smiling. She knew the lesson she had just delivered. Humans were underestimated, often dismissed as simple and weak. Yet here she was, proving that intelligence, creativity, and quick thinking were human strengths. Even a million-year-old relic could be understood and outdone by someone from Earth. She felt a surge of pride, not just for herself but for her species. The aliens slowly lowered their arms, their holograms fading, but their curiosity did not. They had seen something new, something unexpected. A human mind, clever and unpredictable, had laughed at their pride and shown them that age and tradition were not the only measures of brilliance. The girl's laughter echoed faintly in the plaza as she stepped back into the crowd, ready to see how they would react next. And in that moment she knew humans had begun a new chapter in the galaxy. One where ingenuity, courage and creativity could stand against the oldest and most advanced civilizations. The girl stood back for a moment, letting the crowd and the aliens absorb her words. The plaza was quiet, the hum of the alien ship filling the space like a soft heartbeat. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a small, unassuming device. At first glance, it looked simple, a handful of metal and circuits, nothing like the glowing relic the aliens had brought. But she knew the truth. This was her creation, improved and refined since her high school project. She placed the device on the ground and it sprang to life. Lights danced across its surface, projecting holographic patterns into the air. Unlike the relic, which was rigid and fixed, her device responded to her gestures, changed shape instantly, and could perform multiple functions at once. The patterns rotated and morphed, displaying information, energy flows, and designs that seemed impossible for something so small. The crowd gasped, and even the aliens tilted their heads, clearly intrigued. "This," she said, her voice calm and confident, "is how humans do it. We think quickly, change things on the fly, and solve problems in ways no one expects." She waved her hands over the device and the hologram shifted instantly. A series of complex shapes emerged, forming what looked like the same design as the alien relic, but improved. It was faster, more precise, and had additional functions that the original did not. The aliens moved closer, their glowing eyes scanning every detail. They tried to mimic her gestures, attempting to understand how her device worked. But it was different. It wasn't just a machine, it was a product of human creativity, intuition, and adaptability. The girl smiled, knowing that this was a lesson in more than technology. It was a lesson in thinking differently, in using imagination and logic together. "See this part?" she asked, pointing to a small glowing circuit. "It adapts to energy flow automatically. The relic you brought, it can't do that. It's fixed, rigid, made for a time when things didn't change quickly. Humans learn fast and we improve fast. We don't wait millions of years to perfect something." The aliens exchanged glances. Their glowing eyes flickered with curiosity, confusion, and perhaps a hint of respect. They had spent eons perfecting their relic, preserving it as a symbol of their intelligence. And yet here was a human, small, young, and seemingly fragile, demonstrating something that surpassed it, not through age, not through tradition, but through fresh thinking and bold experimentation. The crowd of humans around her began to cheer quietly. Some clapped, others whispered excitedly about the girl's intelligence. Scientists and engineers nudged each other, amazed that a teenager could outthink creatures that had lived millions of years. Children stared wide-eyed, inspired, seeing proof that humans could achieve great things with creativity and courage. The girl continued, explaining the small details of her device. She demonstrated how it could analyze data faster, project images more clearly, and even adapt to new energy sources automatically. The holograms shifted fluidly with her gestures, responding to changes in motion and intention. The aliens tried to follow, but their minds were not used to such flexibility. They had relied on precision, memory, and longevity. Humans relied on ingenuity, intuition, and rapid adaptation. She paused for a moment, letting the lesson sink in. The aliens were silent, studying her with fascination. The taller one, the leader, finally stepped forward. It extended a long, metallic finger, touching the holograms cautiously. "You understand," it said slowly as if realizing something new. Its glowing eyes flickered, a signal of thought, calculation, and perhaps humility. The girl smiled, sensing the shift. "Yes," she said softly, "and humans can do more. We don't just preserve knowledge, we create it, change it, and improve it quickly. We're not limited by age or tradition. We're limited only by imagination, and we have plenty of that." The aliens observed in silence as she demonstrated the final function of her device. A holographic map of the galaxy appeared, showing star systems, planets, and energy flows. The projections shifted, adapted, and highlighted important paths and possibilities. The relic's rigid patterns could not compare. It was clear that humans thought differently, more creatively, more boldly, more unpredictably. The girl stepped back, her eyes sparkling. The aliens lowered their hands, their glowing eyes fixed on her. There was no fear, no threat, only recognition. They had underestimated humans, assuming youth, small size, and short lifespans meant limited intelligence. But here she stood, proving them wrong in the most undeniable way: action, demonstration, and innovation. The crowd began to clap softly, and the aliens hesitated before echoing the gesture in their own way. The taller alien, leader of the group, nodded slowly, a silent acknowledgement of the human girl's ingenuity. For the first time, they understood that intelligence was not just about how long you lived or how old your civilization was. It was about how you used your mind, how you thought, and how you adapted. The girl smiled, proud but humble. She knew this was more than a personal victory, it was a victory for humans everywhere. She had shown the galaxy that humans were clever, adaptable, and unpredictable. Even the oldest civilizations could learn something from a young mind willing to challenge tradition. And as the sunlight reflected off the alien ship and her glowing device, she realized the galaxy had just begun to notice humans in a way it never had before. The lesson was clear. Never underestimate the power of a human mind, even one that seemed small, young, or unassuming. The girl stood quietly as the aliens studied her device, their glowing eyes flickering with curiosity and something else she couldn't quite name. Respect, perhaps. They had come expecting awe, fear, or submission, and instead they found understanding, creativity, and boldness. She smiled faintly, knowing she had changed their perspective in a way no one else had. The taller alien, their leader, stepped forward. Its glowing hand hovered over her device, analyzing every movement, every light pattern. Slowly, it began to mirror her gestures, trying to replicate the fluidity and adaptability that made the human invention remarkable. The girl watched carefully, making minor adjustments in her mind to demonstrate the principles more clearly. She spoke softly, "This is how we think. We notice what's wrong, change it, and try something new. We don't wait for perfection, we improve constantly." The alien paused, its glowing eyes dimming slightly in thought. It turned to the others in its group, and they all began to mimic her movements, their motions less precise than hers but full of genuine curiosity. She realized that they were learning not just about the device, but about humans themselves. They had underestimated her species, thinking longevity and ancient knowledge made a civilization superior. Yet here was a young human girl demonstrating that innovation, speed of thought, and adaptability were equally powerful. The girl smiled wider, feeling the weight of the moment. Around her, humans whispered and pointed, astonished that a teenager had impressed an entire alien delegation. The aliens' display of pride had crumbled, replaced by fascination and acknowledgement. The taller alien finally spoke, its voice melodic and careful, a mixture of awe and humility. "You are different," it said. "Your species, you think in ways we did not expect." "Yes," the girl replied, her voice steady. "Humans create, adapt, and imagine. We don't rely only on age or tradition. We challenge what exists and make it better. That's what sets us apart." The alien nodded slowly, understanding dawning. It gestured to its companions, who stepped closer, examining her device with growing respect. The girl realized that this was more than a demonstration of her skill, it was a turning point. Humans had been underestimated for too long, seen as small, fragile, or primitive by advanced civilizations. But her actions, her ingenuity, and her courage were changing that perception. She stepped forward, activating a new function on her device. The hologram shifted into a vast map of the galaxy, showing star systems, planets, and possible paths for exploration. The aliens watched in awe as the projections adapted in real time to her gestures, highlighting connections, resources, and opportunities that the ancient relic could not display. She explained, "This is how humans solve problems. We adapt quickly, we see patterns, and we find solutions that no one expects. Even civilizations older than ours can learn from this approach." The taller alien's eyes glowed brighter, and it stepped closer, touching the holographic projections carefully. The others followed, clearly fascinated. The girl realized that they were not just observing, they were learning. She felt a rush of pride, not arrogance, but the satisfaction of knowing her species had earned recognition. For the first time, humans were being respected across the galaxy, not for strength or survival, but for intelligence, creativity, and ingenuity. She glanced at the crowd, seeing humans smiling, whispering, and taking pictures. Children looked inspired, imagining themselves as inventors, scientists, and explorers. Adults nodded in quiet admiration, realizing that the potential of humans extended far beyond Earth. The girl's confidence grew as she saw the ripple effect of her actions. One small human could make a difference, and an entire species could be recognized for its unique brilliance. The taller alien finally spoke again, this time clearly. Teach us. Show us how you think, how you create, how you adapt. Your species, it is remarkable. Its glowing eyes met hers and she saw sincerity, curiosity, and newfound respect. The other aliens nodded in agreement, forming a circle around her device. They were ready to learn, not as masters teaching students, but as equals recognizing the ingenuity of another mind. The girl smiled, knowing this was only the beginning. I can show you, she said softly. But remember, humans don't just copy. We explore, we change, we create. You will need to think differently too. The aliens seemed to understand. The taller one nodded slowly, a silent acknowledgement that humans were clever, unpredictable, and not to be underestimated. Around the plaza, the humans cheered softly, witnessing a moment in history where their species had proven itself in a way no one had expected. The girl's heart swelled with pride, but she remained humble. This was not just her victory, it was humanity's. The sun reflected off the alien ship, the Relic, and her device, bathing the plaza in golden light. The girl looked at the aliens, then at the crowd, and finally back at her device. She had shown them that intelligence, creativity, and courage could stand against age, experience, and tradition. Humans had earned their respect, not through force or time, but through ingenuity, vision, and boldness. As the wind blew gently through the plaza, rustling papers and banners, the girl took a deep breath. She knew that humans had begun a new chapter in galactic history. One where cleverness, creativity, and daring could match, even surpass, the achievements of civilizations that had existed for millions of years. The aliens had recognized the truth, and humanity had stepped forward as a species worthy of respect. And in that moment, the girl realized that the universe would never underestimate humans again.